Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Janice Lo. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Israel vows to maintain its siege on Gaza until Hamas frees all hostages. Locally, a school principal warns against speculating how a teenage student survived after going missing for 8 days. And the Monetary Authority urges vigilance following a surge in fraud complaints. U.S. President Joe Biden has rushed military supplies to Israel and warned Iran not to get involved in the conflict in the Gaza Strip. As the death toll from Israeli airstrikes mounted, Israel said Gaza will have no water, fuel, or electricity until all hostages are freed.
It's now a common but terrifying sight in the Gaza Strip. Footage provided by the Israeli army shows fighter jets bombarding sites belonging to the Palestinian group Hamas. The airstrikes were launched after Israel was caught off guard last Saturday when Hamas fighters reached a security fence and initiated deadly strikes on several Israeli towns. At least 1,200 people in Israel were killed and scores taken hostage. Israel's response was swift as its leaders vowed to wipe out Hamas. Relentless airstrikes killed more than 1,200 Palestinians and wounded 5,600. Many of the victims were children. With their houses reduced to rubble, 340,000 Palestinians are homeless. The 2.3 million people trapped in besieged Gaza are running out of food, water, and electricity after Israel cut off their supplies. Hamas has continued to fire rockets into Israel, causing panic in the southern town of Ashkelon. As clashes continued, Washington rushed arms to Israel.
We're surging additional military assistance to the Israeli Defense Force, including ammunition, interceptors to replenish the Iron Dome, and we've moved the U.S. carrier fleet to the Eastern Mediterranean, and we're sending more fighter jets there in that region, and made it clear to the Iranians, be careful.
With no ceasefire on the horizon, efforts are underway to open humanitarian corridors to help the Palestinians.
There have been appeals from all corners of the globe for restraint in the Gaza crisis, while a Palestinian diplomat reminded the world that Israel has attacked the coastal enclave every few years.
Peace would require that the Israeli side to recognize that we exist and we are humans and we have national rights and aspirations, and these national rights and aspirations should be fulfilled, and there is global consensus on them. The two-state solutions and people to live in peace and harmony as good neighbors, which would require the end of occupation.
The Arab League meeting in Cairo pressed for an immediate ceasefire, saying the fighting could get out of hand. Russian President Vladimir Putin called for an end to the hostilities and described Washington's Middle East policy as a failure. The Gaza conflict has triggered demonstrations around the world, with tempers flaring at times when rival protesters confronted each other in many cities. In the Chilean capital Santiago, a vigil was held to mourn the Israelis killed by Hamas fighters. The Israeli supporters outnumbered those at a pro-Palestinian rally. In Johannesburg, South African police arrested a lone pro-Israeli protester who tried to disrupt marches demanding an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory.
You come here with an Israeli flag, you are provoking the public. It was intentional. It's like what they've been doing all the time. But this is exactly the mentality of the occupiers. This is exactly what they do. They provoke and then they cry when something hits them.
Locally, a school principal has advised against speculating how a 17-year-old student who went missing survived outdoors for 8 days despite the atrocious weather. The call came as Matthew Zhang continued to recover in hospital. Janice Lo reports.
A day after Matthew Zhang was found in Maonshan Country Park, his mother Amy Chen attributed his survival to his strong willpower. In a Facebook update, she said her 17-year-old son stayed alive by drinking water from a stream. Chen again hailed it to a miracle that he survived, as there was a typhoon as well as heavy downpours during the 8 days he was missing. She thanked all those who helped rescue her son, who's a Form 6 student at the Diocesan Boys' School in Mongkok. In a letter to students, Ronnie Zhang, principal of the teenager school, emphasized the importance of youngsters' needs and their emotional well-being, stressing that it is vital to provide them with comfort and support. He also appealed to parents to give time and space to Zhang's family and avoid speculative comments. Zhang Tinyu from the Fire Services Department told a radio show that the use of drones and artificial intelligence helped to make the week-long search a success. On the same show, Anson Zhang, who founded the volunteer group Hong Kong Guardians, said it would have been difficult for someone without any knowledge of wilderness survival to be alive after such an ordeal. Zhang, who captained the school dragon boat team, is undergoing treatment at Eastern Hospital. Janice Lo, HKIBC.
In the first case of its kind, the Immigration Department has cracked down on a crime syndicate that hired illegal workers to provide cleaning services for restaurants. 5 alleged syndicate members, including the leader, were arrested during a 3-day operation. 20 illegal workers, mostly Indonesians, as well as 8 employers were also detained. Officers seized a large amount of cash, bank documents, service contracts, and forged identity cards. The syndicate reportedly paid the workers up to $500 a day, while charging the restaurants at least $20,000. The transactions are estimated to amount to over $17 million. The Monetary Authority has received over 950 fraud-related complaints in the first 9 months of the year, almost double last year's total. The city's de facto central bank urged people to stay vigilant, especially when they receive a link on social messaging platforms. The Monetary Authority said fraud-related cases have been increasing. The city's de facto central bank received 954 complaints between January and September, far exceeding last year's total of 555. Around 70% of the complaints involved credit card transactions. The authority's Deputy Chief Executive Arthur Yun said most fraudsters would send text messages to their targets and claim that their reward scheme points are about to expire. They would encourage victims to redeem their gifts by clicking on fraudulent links. But recently, the scammers have changed tactics.
At least in the past month or so, we are beginning to receive complaints in relation to those WhatsApp messages. People hacking someone's phone and then sending out messages on those instant messaging platforms, pretending to be friends. But because it came from a friend's sort of WhatsApp, so on the face of it, it looks like legitimate. But then it would sometimes normally provide a link for you to press the link, and then it will lead you to a payment arrangements and transfer money out of your account to the fraudsters.
The Monetary Authority earlier said it is working to set up an alert system for suspicious transactions conducted on the Faster Payment System, or FPS. The system is expected to come into operation in 2 months. A mainland student jailed for a colonial-era sedition offense earlier this year has been released. Zheng Yuxuan was given a 6-month term after she pleaded guilty to attempting or preparing to act with seditious intent. The 23-year-old law postgraduate student at the Chinese university had planned to display a large banner featuring the Pillar of Shame statue in Causeway Bay on June 4th this year. But she was arrested before she could carry out her plan. The Security Bureau said Zheng has been deported. 5 members of the New Prospect for Hong Kong party say they will run in the forthcoming district council elections.
We did have a lot of challenges, a lot of issues, and we think the most important, the most critical issue that we need to tackle is the trust issue.
The 5 are Sharon So, Yankee Chen, Wong Lok Yin, Billy Lee, and Henry Ma. None of them has contested an election yet. Nominations open on Tuesday, and the polls will be held on December 10th. The Hong Kong stock market has risen for the 6th straight session, closing at a 5-week high as mainland banks advanced. Investors bought shares in China's 4 biggest banks after Beijing's sovereign wealth fund increased its stakes in the lenders for the first time in 8 years. China Construction Bank gained 5.6%, while ICBC jumped 4.8%. Agricultural Bank rose 4.5%, and Bank of China 4%. The surge in the shares of mainland lenders helped the Hang Seng Index close 1.9% higher. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index ended the day up by 345 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tracker Fund gained 31 cents, Tencent was up $5.60, while Meituan gained $1.90. Alibaba gained $1.25, and AIA was up $1.20. To the foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 8.3, the pound's at 9.62, and the Canadian dollar is at 5.75. Over in the UK market, the FTSE 100 is currently up by 55 points. It's been a special day for twin female pandas at a theme park near the South Korean capital, Seoul. They were given names as they met the public for the first time. One is called Ruibao, meaning wise treasure, and her sister is Huibao, or shining treasure. Around 20,000 people proposed over 4,000 names for the cubs. They will celebrate their 100th birthday at the Everland Park on Sunday. Each now weighs over 5 kilograms, 30 times more than at birth. Their parents were sent to South Korea as a gift from China 7 years ago. On to the weather now. Some rain tomorrow before becoming sunny later. Temperatures will range between 24 and 30 degrees. Expect a sunny weekend. That's our main news for Thursday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Janice Lo. Good evening.